morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're viewing this podcast. This is, I believe, about the 20th episode of our series, Race, Culture, in the Church. Race, Culture, in the Church. We're talking to various members of our community, trying to get that sweet spot of conversation where that impacts all of us. As believers of Jesus Christ, we don't shy away, we lean into that. But we also know that we live in a culture, and race in this culture is an issue. And I am pleased, I'm over the moon to have Gary May, the 7th Chancellor of the UC Davis School. This is just an incredible opportunity. So welcome, Chancellor.
Thank you for having me, Pastor Meeks.
Oh, it's just, and please call me Mark. This is awesome. The 7th Chancellor, and did a little, can't say it was exhaustive research, did a little research. 4 colleges, 6 schools, almost 40,000 students under your wing, if you will. I'll ask the obvious question. What's a chancellor? What's a chancellor? What do you do?
People do ask that question more often than you think, and it's not obvious. But the chancellor, I describe it as a combination of 3 things: a mayor, a principal, and a CEO. Aspects of all different of those 3 different roles occur in my everyday duties.
So, what consumes your time? If I were to look at a pie chart of the Chancellor's time, and I know it's not 8 hours, I won't even go there.
No, I wish it was 8 hours.
What gets the biggest chunks? Where are the biggest slices going right now?
Sure. Well, I'll separate the COVID planning, which is the biggest chunk right now, from normal times.
That overlays everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if in times when there's not a global pandemic, we're involved with a lot of the fundraising, being the external spokesperson for the campus, whether the audience is legislature, regents, media, alumni, any other number of constituencies, campus planning, budgeting, strategic planning, everything that has to do with how UC Davis presents itself to the outside world is in my office essentially. And on the internal side, resolving issues and conflicts, doing resource allocation, various hiring plans, enrollment plans, all those things have to be ultimately approved through my office. But the job is mostly externally focused. I like to, the reason why I say CEO, the CEO is the person who's representing the brand and trying to grow the brand. And there's a COO who's more the internal operations person, which is the provost at most universities.
And so you have, in your role though as chancellor, you have both the academic and the healthcare under your purview. So you have the provost that's dealing with all things academic, and then you have who on the medical side?
We have a vice chancellor and CEO of UC Davis Health.
Okay.
Who manages, the hospital, the schools of medicine and nursing, and all the public health aspects of UC Davis.
I get personal. How many hours? I mean, do you have a life? I mean, outside of this is obviously you leverage yourself up. You try and surround yourself with great people, but this has got to be incredibly demanding on your time.
It is. It's really 24/7, 365. But you have to make time for yourself for self-care, right? So, I try to make time for myself and my family to have those necessary times where you can relax and enjoy other people and that sort of thing. But you're sort of always on call because things happen at inopportune moments, and you have to be available for these, critical situations. So there is some stress, but I try to make time for things I need to keep myself healthy. And
I could only imagine that, particularly in situations like this, you didn't seek it, it sought you. I understand you were born in St. Louis.
I was.
Matriculated first at Georgia Tech,
Yes.
and then made your way out to the left coast to UC Berkeley and got your master's and doctorate there in electrical engineering and computer science.
Yeah, electrical engineering and computer science, EECS as we call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a civil engineer by vocation.
Okay, didn't know that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the number of engineers that look like me or you, there aren't a whole lot. How did that career? How did you happen on that career? How did that career find you?
Yeah, you're right. We are still abysmally underrepresented in STEM fields, engineering in particular. In my case, I was fortunate when I was in high school, I was in a program called Develop Engineering Students, aptly named, where the local industry, McDonnell Douglas Corporation, was the biggest employer of engineers in the St. Louis area, had a really intentional program for underrepresented students, minority students, to spend summers there. They picked about 30 of us from around the St. Louis area, and we would spend our summers basically doing an internship under the tutelage of practicing engineers. And the idea was to give us some exposure to the profession and to attract us to the field. And in my case, it was successful. And if you go back a little further, childhood interest in puzzles and Lego and erector sets and comic books and all those things led to that choice for me.
That's interesting. Yeah, I won't even go there. All I'll say is amen, because I can relate. Your wife, Lachelle, she's also an engineer.
She is.
So I'm thinking your conversations at the dinner table are either boring or scintillating. How does that work?
Well, so we met through engineering. We both were members of the National Society of Black Engineers, and we have that was really the way that we got together. But interestingly enough, over time, we talk at the dinner table less and less about what's happening on the job and more about, family issues and other things. So we although we are both nerds and geeks, we don't, we try not to let that consume our personal lives.
Gosh, I could ask some probing questions, and I was like, no, I'd out you as a nerd or geek. You have two daughters.
We do.
And are they engineers?
The oldest majored in computer science.
Oh, poor thing.
And the youngest is a teacher.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting. One of my daughters is a high school math teacher. So it's one of those things that, I don't know. You're born an engineer, like you said. The things that we're attracted to, the gravitational pulls of life. The puzzles, geography, cartography, those kinds of things. Tell me about St. Louis. Your travel. I don't know how long. Did you leave high school and go to Georgia Tech? That was your first out from Missouri area, Illinois area?
It was.
Okay, so and where I'm going is, I want to get a sense from you, we seem to be, as a country, let me just say that, very balkanized, very, how we see the world is like that kaleidoscope. You twist it, somebody grabs it, twists it, they see one picture. Hand it off to someone else, they twist it, they see a different picture. Mm-hmm. So going from St. Louis to Georgia to California, unpack that or present that in terms of culture and worldview, if you will.
Yeah, that's a great question. Think about that a lot. And there are different levels of the transitions. I mean, I tell people that when we came here from Atlanta, there's Atlanta and Davis are very different, size-wise and culture-wise. Then the two universities that I worked at, Georgia Tech and UC Davis, are quite different. One's very comprehensive university, the other is very STEM-focused. And then there's the state differences. California and Georgia, different politically, culturally, many different ways. What is a common thread, though, which I think you might find interesting, is in all of those communities, from St. Louis to Atlanta to Sacramento area, the African-American community is pretty static, pretty much similar in all those different places, which is a source of comfort in some sense, right? 'Cause you
Describe that, unpack that for me.
Well, it's hard to put the right words together, but you always feel like when you find another group of African Americans who've had commonalities in our experiences, whether it's how we were raised or our professional lives or our personal, family lives. And, that's one thing that I look for when I'm deciding whether I want to move into a certain area or community is there that cultural anchor for me? Is that going to be there or not?
Do you, yeah, I'll put you on the spot. Do you find that any area, we all have biases. Mm-hmm. Anybody who says, oh, I don't have bias, they're either deluded or they're lying.
Yeah.
The biases that you've lived in the bubbles, if you will, you've been in, be it Missouri, Georgia, or California, do you find, I guess I'm trying to tease out, how does Missourians see life versus Georgians versus Californians? And I hear echoes of the late Rodney King. Can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
Why? You say that there's commonality within the African American community. I have and you probably know him, Dr. John Maupin. He's cousin by marriage.
Oh.
Former president of Meharry.
Right.
How he sees. He's raised in Baltimore, the South, and he's African American, but he's different.
Yeah.
Californian, I'm different.
There are some differences in how those different communities kind of view the external world. In California, you're more likely to have been born and raised here and never left, whereas Atlanta,
you weren't born there.
Nobody's from Atlanta. I'm exaggerating.
No,
there are people, but everybody's from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Much more of a cosmopolitan community.
That's got to be good, right?
I think there's some good in that, yeah, and there's some good in the other. I think it's good for everybody to experience different viewpoints in different communities, and travel is the best education you can get, right? And I believe that. So I would advise anyone, as I was advised when I was a young person, to try to experience somewhere else than where you were brought up, just so you can get a different perspective, and so helpful in your how you deal with people.
What was your father and mother? Were they world travelers? Were they professionals or blue collar workers?
My dad was a postal worker. My mom's a teacher. Was a teacher. I wouldn't call them world travelers, but my dad made sure that my sister and I and the two of them went on vacation every summer. And usually we'd be driving for a long time, listening to his 8 tracks. But we would drive from St. Louis, went to New York, we went to Florida, we'd go on some pretty long drives. But it was important for him, not only for the, recreation and the vacation, but also just for us to get a sense of what things were like in other places. And so
you've had to. It sounds you've been exposed to a variety of cultures. I mean, if you're going across country, you're going through Indiana, you're going to New York, you're not in St. Louis,
right?
And you're also in a field that, as we were sharing earlier, that minorities are underrepresented. So you've navigated that space. How have you done that? How have you navigated that space to be Gary May, period, full stop, not Gary May, African American, who happens to be an electrical engineer?
That's a great question. I've always been aware of the fact that I was one of the only or the few in a classroom or in the profession, but I've always been very confident, and I think I attribute that to being raised in the environment that I was, with very supportive parents who emphasized and valued education and discipline. So even though I was, and still am in a situation where I'm one of the only or the few, the first African-American chancellor at UC Davis, I have a certain confidence about what we do and what I do, and have a really great support system, starting with my wife and my family, and that helps through the difficult times, the challenging times. So those are things I think are really important.
Did your wife let you know when the trash cans need to be emptied?
You know, she keeps me grounded. I'll say that.
Okay, I'll let her go.
This is a little funny story. I had a week. I think it was last year. I had a week. I was had a phone call with a Nobel laureate. We had an alumnus who had won a Nobel Prize that year at Davis, and then I had an interview with the New York Times. Now I'm feeling myself, right? And then I get a shout from the other part of the house. You know, dude, you need to do the laundry. So it's a good balance.
I'm glad it's not just me. Oh, you're Pastor Meeks, and that means what?
Yeah, exactly. Chancellor is not impressive to her or to my children, who also are not impressed by things I do.
No, yeah. I could talk on that. Chancellor, this is funny. I was reading, I'll take it as truth, that UC Davis contributes $8 billion. Mm-hmm. $8 billion. It's just like I can't even wrap my mind around that. I didn't realize that impact. $8 billion to the greater California economy.
Right.
$8 billion. That's a lot of money by any calculation.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you personally?
It means we have a lot of responsibility for engagement with the community. If the region depends on us for that level of economic impact, we have to take that very seriously and be good citizens and good stewards of those resources. Our budget alone is $5.7 billion with our 40,000 students and 25 or 30,000 employees. We do almost $1 billion worth of sponsored research every year. We raise on the order of $250 to $300 million in philanthropy every year. And so that's a high level of responsibility when you have to steward those resources.
From the lofty perch that you reside, you are the CEO. How do you maintain? How is that connective tissue? How is it? Use a medical term. How is that? There's blood flowing in that tissue and it's alive, and you're really you have a finger on the pulse of how decisions are being made and funds are being dispensed.
Yeah, we have to decide from at a high level. We have a strategic plan that kind of decides where we want to be in the next 10 years and how to get there, and we set our priorities year by year according to that plan, and that's how we spend our resources, trying to achieve what we have outlined in that plan. So that touches everything from enrollment to facilities to research to our community engagement activities. You may talk about Aggie Square at some point, but that's came from a great deal of thought and planning.
Yeah, that's. I'm going to extract a promise from you to come back again. Aggie Square is its own thing. That is its own thing. I'm trying to really get to know and present Chancellor Gary May, not the guy in charge of Aggie Square.
Okay.
You were honored by President Obama.
Yeah.
For your STEM mentoring. That's I guess maybe I'm just late to the party. That's a big doggone deal, and that speaks to me. That speaks to who you are. The give back to the community, and to be recognized and honored for that. Talk about that.
Well, certainly one of my career highlights. I won what is called the Presidential Award for Excellence in Science, Mathematics, and Engineering Mentoring. And it's the presidential award that they give every year to a cohort of a handful of people. Mine was received in 2015. You go to the White House, there's a series of events, but culminating in meeting with the president. Not a lot of his time, maybe 10, 15 minutes of his time in a photo. Mm-hmm. But it's really gratifying because, it was really important. It continues to be important to me throughout my career. It's been, you have to, as you say, give back. I think it's important that in a discipline where we are so underrepresented, how do you make yourself into an accessible role model that can help to change that underrepresentation? I've been the first in many titles in my career. First Chancellor, first African American Dean at Georgia Tech, first African American Chair of a department, And I've always said I don't want to be the last. If I'm going to be the first, I can't be the last. So it's really important for me to share what I know to people that are coming behind me. And it's so incredibly gratifying when I see one of my former students do something great, become a dean themselves, or get an award, or what have you. And that really is even more satisfying than me receiving some recognition.
You still involved in STEM?
Very much, yeah. Yeah, there are many different activities that at a high level, various national committees and things like that, that we try to still have an impact in STEM. Just yesterday, I'm chair of the Council of Presidents of what's called the University Research Association, and we're interviewing Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm, just yesterday, and that's just one example of several things that we do at a pretty high level to try to keep these issues at the forefront of people's awareness.
How do you, took the words out of my mouth, so how do you communicate that? We're in the 95817 zip code. Mm-hmm. It's I've said it before, I say it now on race, culture, and the church. Broadway is sort of like the Mason-Dixon line.
Interesting.
Of the community, of 95817. North of Broadway, it's one social and economic and racial demographic. South of Broadway, it's another, but that's changing. Mm-hmm. So when you say communicate, and we're right next to a continuation high school, mm-hmm. American Legion mm-hmm. High School. We're in relationship with them. We partner with them and we do things. But there still seems to be such an incredible gap between race, cultures, economic groups in terms of, I won't even say access, but offering STEM, and that's wonderful, but I've got other issues on Maslow's hierarchy right. that I'm dealing with. Yeah. And I'm sorry, STEM isn't just rising to the top right now.
Yeah.
So what can we do? What are, I don't personalize it, Chancellor May or UC Davis, how do we get there? If the objective is creating opportunity that is indeed accessible to everybody, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Equal opportunity, equal access, equal, but it's just not. I mean, all you have to do is look at the API scores of the Father Keith McKinney, Oak Ridge Elementary. Just check out the scores, right. And then go to Crocker Riverside and go to Phoebe Hearst or whatever, right. And different scores.
Right. A lot of it is raising awareness about the opportunities that are available, and then following through with making those opportunities tangible and available. So workforce development programs, hiring. We do a significant fraction of our hiring at the medical center is in these local area zip codes that you mentioned, and we call it our anchor institution mission. As a prominent institution in this community, we have a responsibility to make the kind of career opportunities that we have available through life sciences and technology and health, make the community aware of those opportunities and then help them to get there. So we've got a variety of workforce development activities that we're engaged in now that we're trying to grow, that will make us a good neighbor to this community.
That's at the workforce level. Mm-hmm. Well, they say, I don't know who they are, but I'll take it as that at third grade, if you're not at reading level, that's a pivot.
Right.
So are there things being done? I'm just asking, UC Davis is a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Are there things being done now at the elementary level?
There are a number of K12 outreach programs throughout the university. We tried to catalog them just recently, and there are dozens, if not hundreds, of different activities from everywhere from our College of Engineering through our School of Education and everything in between. what we need to do a better job of is focusing those activities properly so that we're not diffusing the resources. And then, as I said, making people aware that those opportunities exist, because we do have a variety of programs funded through various federal agencies, state agencies for all age groups, starting from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade and graduate programs as well. But I don't think we have done an adequate job of telling that story. And so that's one of my priorities.
Well, and so I'm not lighting up your cell phone, even if I had the number. I don't. But so you're not being burdened with that. If you put us and other community organizations in touch with, I mean, again, and maybe it's the best kept secret in town. These are things that UC Davis is attempting to do. And I was sharing, I won't mention any names, I was sharing with one of your team members. I said, UC Davis here's the good part, UC Davis has a great reputation of doing good in horrific situations. Mm-hmm. Here's the bad, UC Davis tends to do things by themselves. Mm-hmm. That's either real or perceived. I mean, either real or not, that's the perception. Yeah. Is that UC Davis flies solo.
Yeah. Well, perception is reality. If that's what you perceive, that's your reality.
And so to that end, if there's a point of contact, if there's someone that we can speak with that will help with the connection, then please let us know.
Absolutely. We could start with, we have an Office of Campus Community Relations. We have a DEI office, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion office, which the Campus Community Relations reports through there. We've got Public Scholarship and Engagement, which is our way to get the research that we do, have it be a tangible resource for the various aspects of the community. You can start with me in terms of contact, but we'll make sure that whoever wants to get connected to the right resource at UC Davis gets connected.
I appreciate that. As always, as I start to conclude, it's kind of like a preacher's prop. I'm closing now. It's like we always run out of time. So many more questions I'd like to ask. I'd like to extract a promise from you that you'll come back.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I would like to take more of a deeper, not a deeper, we didn't even touch on Aggie Squared. It's its own thing. Yeah. It's its own set of issues, great opportunity, challenges. For sure. All of that. It's its own thing, and it's on its own and it's on its own trajectory. So with that, let me just ask, is there anything that you want to share before I ask you my last two most important questions? Yeah. Anything that you want to share about Chancellor May, UC Davis, Oak Park? I hope you're going to be around for a while, that you're not going to leave the Sacramento region anytime soon.
I don't have any plans right now to leave. So.
Good. And say no to any offer that comes your way. It's like, put down some permanent roots, stay here a minute.
Well, you're lucky because my wife loves it here. So
good, very good.
But no, I'm very happy to have been a part of this conversation with you, Mark. I think I'm happy to come back. I want people to know that I am a resource and I'm accessible and available and approachable. And please reach out to me if you have questions, concerns, issues about UC Davis. We're trying to be a positive force in the community, this community and beyond. And whatever those perceptions that have existed before, we're trying to chip away at those and do a little bit better.
I appreciate that, Chancellor. So first of my really two important questions are, what was the last song you played on your phone?
On the way here, I was listening to Diane Shure on my
I love
playlist.
her.
Yeah.
Oh, she's great. I saw her in concert, actually. She's very good. She goes to Yoshi's every now and then, so you might want to check that out. And along those same lines, what's the last book you've read or currently reading?
Oh, I wish I had more time to read for pleasure. I read Obama's book about his first term over a few months ago.
He's not been president for a minute now. You
No,
know?
I know. But his book has not been out that long, so give me a little credit there. But, I wish I could read something other than a report or,
Correct.
But I don't have a lot of time to read for pleasure.
I completely feel your pain, your situation. Chancellor May, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I want to invite you all again to, if you haven't already, look at all of our podcasts under Race, Culture, and the Church. I believe this is the 20th or 21st episode, and goes all the way back to a week after the murder of George Floyd. So catch up, see what's going on, and we look forward to having this conversation with Chancellor May or someone else in the very near future. Thank you so much.